Well, I think you hit a reset button for the fall campaign. Everything changes. It's almost like an Etch-A-Sketch. You can kind of shake it up and we start all over again.
I see Senator Ball shaking his head already. It is the soundbite that the political world's been talking about for 3 days now. Hey, we don't have any seemingly compelling race, but we got a great quote here, so we're going to grab onto it. That's what we do. Will the Romney campaign's Etch-A-Sketch gaffe do lasting damage to his White House bid? It's a legitimate question. Everybody in the campaign, not named Romney, seems to think this is a problem. And it's not just Andrew coming from the left here. Folks in the right are jumping on this thing too.
Yeah, here's how excited everybody. Remember how excited you were when you got your first Etch-A-Sketch? That's how excited everybody in the campaign except Mitt Romney is. Maybe they're reacting sort of like this, the Romney campaign, hoping it will, yeah, call me Carrot Top, folks.
Stop.
I'm a prop. Move on. Everyone from the White House to other Republican candidates making political hay out of it, including Rick Santorum, who may have gone too far in his attack, saying he'd rather see President Obama reelected than see Mr. Etch-A-Sketch take the White House.
You win by giving people the opportunity to see a different vision for our country, not someone who's just going to be a little different than the person in there. If they're going to be a little different, we might as well stay with what we have, instead of taking a risk of what may be the Etch-A-Sketch candidate for the future.
Stay with what you have. Nothing like following up a gaffe with another gaffe of your own. Now, as you might expect, Santorum tried to walk that back later, but he's not alone. Santorum, Ron Paul, and Newt Gingrich have all come out with ads hammering Romney for the gaffe. Here's a part of the Gingrich ad.
It's always a burden for someone to run with R for Republican after their name.
I'm happy to stand by the things I believe. I'm not going to change my positions by virtue of being in a presidential campaign.
It's very clear, I think, to people across the Commonwealth that my R doesn't stand so much for Republican as it does for reform.
All right, now pretend for a moment I hadn't told you that ad was from the Gingrich campaign. See if you can tell the difference between that ad and this one that comes from the Democrats.
Question is, if I were elected and Congress were to pass the DREAM Act, would I veto it? And the answer is yes.
Planned Parenthood, we're going to get rid of that.
I was a severely conservative Republican governor.
Essentially the same ads coming from the Republican presidential candidates and the Democratic National Committee. That's not good for Romney.
I saw a whole lot of head shaking going on, Senator, here. First of all, if that guy's on his payroll, you know, he ought to return his paycheck.
As you know, state elected official in New York, I know I make enough of my own gaffes. The last thing I need is with staff going out and making them for you. You know, at the end, I don't think those ads are actually very good.
No,
or very
I think they could have been both creative, right?
And I think that at the end of the day, there's certainly a narrative that the opposition is trying to make. Maybe if it came a little bit earlier,
right,
it would have been you know, more effective.
Does it have legs though, this issue, that he's a
I think that they went
candidate?
overboard. I think Santorum's comments are a headshot to his own campaign. I think that Republican primary voters are going to see that as somebody who's vindictive and will do anything they can.
So you think it hurts, but it's not fatal? What
they have been saying about Romney that he's not a true conservative now.
But he said it
for what,
himself.
4 years?
But this time he's saying it.
An advisor said it. Maybe it's time to have a sketch.
That guy's Dom, you buy that?
See, here's the problem. What happened to Illinois? Remember that? Tuesday night, we were talking about whether this is over. And I hedged my bet because I said this guy is the 1-2. One step forward, two backwards. Obama's saying thank you so much.
And look at what happened. He gets a huge endorsement in Jeb Bush, a guy who everybody was wondering, well, is he holding out because he's going to put his hat in come the convention? And he gets this guy's endorsement, and all of a sudden, that's not even news anymore.
Can I just say one thing, though? Because if you look at the polling, a lot of conservatives, even Tea Party folks, they are voting for Romney in many of these primaries because he's the most electable. Mm-hmm. They also know that the reason why he's most electable is maybe because in a general election, he's willing to go toe-to-toe with the president in a way, to do community outreach in a way that maybe some of these on the extreme right are not going to be capable of doing it. Personally, myself, I want somebody to get into a general election and then be able to go toe-to-toe with President Obama and not speak. You have to stay true to your core on conservative issues and know where that president's going to stand. But once you get into a general election, I want you to be able to communicate
but that fungible
to people
core,
beyond that Republican.
Because that's the real emesis, that fungible core. If they're not sure what he's really going to do on the issues that he's done 180s on, like healthcare, like abortion, like you name it, right? will they still turn out if they don't really know the alternative is
I
really
think
for
this
them?
has been the issue for the Romney campaign the entire time.
Yeah.
He's going to continue to deal with it the way that it is. In the end of the day, the general election is going to be about the economy and about jobs.